For those of us who are successful on paper, with lives that other people envy, maybe with a life that you at one point even dreamed of, and younger you would be envious of, that most people would say you should be proud of, you should be excited to have, you should feel lucky to have. But you know something is missing. You know it's not enough. Because you know that deep inside, the way you actually feel about your life doesn't match at all what you think you should feel or what people say you should feel. And that may be because you've outgrown that life, that you no longer want to continue chasing and building the things that you've been building towards, or it was never what you truly wanted to begin with. That it became this amalgamation of things that were put on you and you were told you should want, expectations that other people had, whether societal, familial, your mentors, your friends, that there was a life that you thought you should be living, and now you're living it, and you're not happy, or you're not at peace, or you don't feel joy, you don't feel successful. Because within, you know that there's a deep emptiness, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, internally, that you are missing. Your joy is missing. Your peace is missing. Your sense of meaning and satisfaction is missing. And if you think about what it took to get you to this point, you probably survived a lot of things. You probably achieved a lot of things. You probably hit certain markers that were really hard to hit, that other people were striving to do and couldn't. That even you are amazed that you were able to accomplish. And that's where the on paper part is pretty remarkable. But if you look at what it took to get you to this point, there was probably so much doing, so much sacrifice to achieve the position that you're currently at, to make the money that you're currently making, to have the status or the title or the prestige or the reputation that you have, to have the accolades, the adoration, the people saying such nice things to you all the time. But more and more, you're feeling like a fraud, or you're feeling that deep emptiness and that lack of meaning and purpose. And all that striving for these goals, for the attainment of these things, if they weren't rooted in the truth of who you are and what you wanted and your sense of what matters to you as a human individual, then it was inevitable that you got to this point. But the opportunity, whether it is because you've outgrown it and you just want a whole new set of things or experiences, there's like a new kind of cultivation of experience that you realize you need to do for yourself, or if because you're realizing that these are never quite the true things that you wanted. No matter what the reasoning is, you are at this point. But it's a massive opportunity. And I say this to everyone that I talk to who is feeling the confusion, the stuckness, the lostness, the angst, because it is painful internally, emotionally, psychologically. But we don't get these signals for no reason. Our body is incredibly smart. Our brains are incredibly attuned. In the same way that our body gives us signals, physical signals, when we are not well. Our brain, our emotional, mental state also give us signals when we're not well. And I get so excited for people at this time because it is your opportunity to grow, not in general, more specifically, kind of to return back to who you always were, to return back to the person that often we buried when we were kids because of how we needed to survive, because of what we learned was approved of, what would get us what we wanted, to have our needs met, whatever it may be. But it's a huge opportunity for people to wake up and to get back to what was always the most true about yourself. To really consider what you love, what makes you want to get out of bed in the morning, not just on Mondays, but every day. What brings you pure joy? How do you cultivate your inner peace? What will you find meaningful when you're on your deathbed looking back on your life? To know that you didn't waste time, that you didn't spend money, effort, energy, time on things that weren't important, that ultimately didn't really matter. It's a huge opportunity to give yourself the space to dream of possibility, to expand your current world from what it is to what is possible. And I don't mean in this infinite sense of attainment of more things or different statuses or new achievements that you have to go for. It's not the striving, because the emptiness doesn't come from you striving for the wrong things in terms of attainment and achievement. It often comes from the act of striving so hard itself for goals that ultimately didn't fulfill you. And to understand what goals and experiences would fulfill you, it requires you to dig in with yourself, excavate and carve, kind of shovel away all the shit that's been piled on to get back to the core, to get back to your roots, to get back to the things that you could spend hours doing when you didn't have responsibilities, the things that you would lose track of time in. You could have days go by and not realize what time it was because you were so immersed in this world. And it's not just topics and subjects, it's how you engage too. It's how you understand the world around you, how you want to exist within it, how you want to be. And the major shift is from doing a ton of work to attain these things and being you without needing to think about it. Being the person that is most honest and true, that is able to speak their mind freely, that is able to engage with the world without fear of rejection, that is able to chase dreams and experiences that bring true joy, not just money and accolades that in the end don't really matter. Because we come here with nothing and we will leave with nothing. And if you are starting to recognize that there is an emptiness, something that's deeply missing, that is making you ask questions like, who am I and why am I here? Because all the striving that you've been doing, all the doing that you've been doing, all the work and the sweat that you've been putting into going after these big goals that have made you so successful on paper, that you've lost a sense of who you are and what you truly want. And what you say matters isn't at all where your time, money, and energy is going. And it's the opportunity of a lifetime, because so many people get to the deathbed moment and regret and think about all the ways in which they wasted their precious time and life. That they made all this money, that they did all these things, they achieved so much, and yet don't have the relationships that are deeply meaningful to them. That they didn't spend more time just being present in their everyday. That they didn't go outside and enjoy nature more. That they didn't roll around in the grass with their puppy or grandkids. That they didn't buy themselves flowers. That they didn't just sit on a beach and stare at the ocean and marvel at how wondrous the world is. And our world does not support the condition of being. We don't want people to be themselves. We want people to be a certain way so that it makes it more comfortable for everyone else. And that's not being, because it isn't connected to the true sense of who each of us are. In order for us to conform, in order for us to fit the definition of not rocking the boat, of keeping the peace, of making sure everyone else is happy, you need to do work to do those things as that person, because that isn't actually you or me. Every single one of us is an individual who has different thoughts and different ways of doing. But the world we've currently constructed wouldn't function very efficiently, or we'd be deeply unproductive if everybody did things their own way, if everyone spoke their mind, if everyone respected each other, if everyone felt compassion for every single person, because that shit takes time. And we don't have time for each other to be their honest selves. And so you have been successful in a world rooted in striving and doing and being someone else so that you can achieve these things. And if you've been able to achieve these things by being your true self, incredible. But most of us have not been able to do that. Usually there's a reckoning. And if you're starting to feel that reckoning, if you're starting to look at your life on paper and it doesn't match how you feel inside, then your being is calling you to return, to take the time, to come back, to get to know yourself again, to remember who you are. There's not a new figuring out that has to happen. You don't have to become a new person. You don't have to reinvent and change. Actually, you do have to change. Change does have to happen, because where you currently are, you've been conditioned to become. You've spent years, decades, being this person who can attain and achieve these things. The return to you will be a change, but it is coming back to who you always were. And that discovery process is hard. It's beautiful, but it is fucking hard. And that's why so many people will look at their life, know how they feel deep disconnect between these two things, deep misalignment, and then keep going in the same direction anyway, because it feels too hard to come back to who you were. Because to a degree, the conditioned you that you currently are, you don't know who that person is anymore. But I'd say it's the most important work that we could do if we have lost ourselves or our sense of self. and are questioning whether the person and the life that is living what is on this page is what you actually want to do with the rest of your life. And most of you are going to confront that and not be willing to lean into the discomfort of change. But for those of you that are, those of you that are realizing that you need the on paper to match the real life and how you feel inside, that you need like this whole experience, the whole inner experience that you are living in silence, maybe suffering in silence with, can no longer be trapped and not matching what's actually on the page, then I am so excited for you. Because that is you inviting yourself back. And you will continue to invite yourself back even if you say no now. But I promise you, it's going to get harder and harder every moment that passes, that you stay in the same lane, because what you're doing is just grinding that rut deeper and deeper. And you're going to make it that much harder for yourself to leave, because even if it's painful, it's going to be comfortable. But if you don't want to be on your deathbed, if you don't want to look back on your life, and you don't want to feel that deep disconnect and misalignment between the life you wish you had lived and the one you actually did, then say yes to the invitation and start spending time with yourself. Start spending time deeply considering some questions like, what were your dreams when you were young? What would you spend all your time doing? What relationships do you wish you had? Do you feel the love that you want to feel? Do you have people in your life who you can count on in the same way they can count on you? Do you know what peace feels like? Do you know how to quiet the noise in your head? And if you can't, what is driving the noise in your head? What do you have to offer this world? How are you here to serve? How do you want to help others? What did you love as a kid? What brought you the deepest joy? What are your happiest memories? What would you do for free for the rest of your life if you could? Like those kinds of questions that reconnect you to who you really are. And if you want help with that, we have regular calls where that's exactly what we talk about. Is who are you? What do you want? And what's getting in the way of you being that person and living that life? The schedule changes, but currently we're meeting weekly. And if you want to join for one of those calls and get some help on this, we'd love to meet you. The info's below.